Why is searching for alien civilizations essentially a trap? Because it's like constantly broadcasting our coordinates to potentially hostile civilizations. And for over 60 years that's exactly what humanity has been doing. What's even more critical, in this endlessly dark universe, what truly determines life or death is never about who builds the most weapons. It's about who steps forward first and shouts "I'm here." We've sent golden records, mathematical greetings and maps of Earth's location into the void, all based on a deeply optimistic underlying assumption that the universe is a vast and friendly ocean, just waiting for humanity to explore it. So naturally we think the quiet skies must mean the universe is too empty, or that we arrived too early, merely stepping onto the galactic stage ahead of schedule. But hey, race, the real problem. There might be a darker, colder possibility, one that sends chills down the spines of cosmologists and game theorists. What if the cosmic silence isn't because nobody's out there, but because it's too crowded? What if this quiet isn't the universe's normal background, but a survival discipline followed by all surviving civilizations? When we seriously examine the data from our galaxy, a sobering picture emerges. This galaxy, packed with hundreds of billions of stars and likely just as many planets, should by all probability be teeming with signs of life, even using the most conservative parameters. In the Drake equation, the result is equally unsettling. In the galaxy's 13 billion year history, intelligent life should have emerged thousands upon thousands of times. If just one civilization appeared slightly earlier than us, with a development head start of a few million years, it would theoretically have had time to spread across the entire galaxy. Yet the result is we see nothing. We hear nothing. This is the Fermi paradox. A universe that should be bustling with activity is in reality eerily cold and quiet. There are two traditional explanations. One says life is inherently extremely rare. The other says civilizations always destroy themselves before leaving their home planet. The Dark Forest offers a third answer, and it's far more sinister than the first two. This answer isn't that civilizations don't exist, it's that they do exist. But they've all learned the same trick: shut up and hide well. Imagine a true dark forest. Night falls, and absolute dead silence settles everywhere. But that doesn't mean it's empty. On the contrary, the truly terrifying part is that it might already be packed with predators. The reason it's so quiet is because every hunter has learned one rule: the longer you want to live, the less sound you can make. Under this metaphor, every civilization is like a hunter armed with a weapon. Moving slowly through dense woods, it carefully pushes aside obstructing branches, tries not to snap any dry twigs, even keeps its breathing to a minimum, because it knows full well that in every patch of shadow in the forest could lurk another hunter, just as tense as it is. What's even more critical is that no matter what it encounters, as long as that thing can move, it has no time to figure it out. For it, the only safe choice is one: to fire first and wipe the other off the chessboard. In this forest, others are not potential friends, but variables that could trigger your doom at any moment. Therefore, any life that actively exposes its own existence will eventually be quickly cleaned up. This threat is baked into the environment. It's a natural rule that is always online. This is the cosmic sociological picture behind the Dark Forest. To understand why this cold state could actually be reality, we must start from two premises that seem simple yet are almost undeniable. First, survival is the primary need of any civilization. As long as it remains a civilization, it cannot actively choose collective suicide. Second, as long as a civilization does not perish, it tends to grow and expand. But the total amount of matter in the universe is finite. It won't conjure up an extra piece of cake just because you want to live a few 100 million more years. Combine these two, and the universe instantly becomes a pressure cooker. All civilizations will eventually have potential resource conflicts. It's only a matter of sooner or later. It is precisely from this perspective that when we look at the silence of the universe again, its meaning changes completely. The silence is no longer shouting "it's so lonely here," but more like reminding everyone here is holding their breath. The kind of quiet we hear is likely the result of countless pairs of eyes hiding in the dark, all holding their breath simultaneously. What humanity has been doing for decades seems particularly jarring within this framework. We are more like a child who barged into a dark forest, naively lighting a bonfire in a clearing and shouting to all directions, "I'm here. Come look at me." The reason we dare do this is because we've always used technological progress equals moral evolution as our baseline logic. We subconsciously feel that an advanced civilization capable of interstellar travel should at least have some interstellar level empathy, should be more like sages than butchers. But on a cosmic scale, what truly stands in the middle is distance's difference, is the communication time lag that can never catch up. These things together crush empathy down below floor level. We have no way to understand the thought processes of alien life. We don't know their evolutionary history, social structures, or ethical views, nor can we judge how much we're worth in their eyes. More crucially, this lack of information is bidirectional. They don't understand us either. They don't know if we'll suddenly turn hostile. They don't know if after a technological explosion, we'll become an uncontrollable beast. It is from here that the entire analysis truly turns toward darkness. When we use this perspective to look back at all of humanity's past attempts to find alien civilizations, we discover something very uncomfortable. We have been loudly broadcasting our coordinates to a galaxy that might follow the iron law of preemptive destruction. Within this framework, the silence of the universe is no longer a blank waiting to be broken, but more like a no berths allowed warning sign. What it suggests is Among those stars much older than the sun, the earliest batch of civilizations that survived long ago understood a law of survival. Exposure equals death. In comparison, we are the exceptionally noisy newcomers, the latecomers who charged into the arena shouting without even understanding the rules of the game. And this rule is actually very simple. So simple it boils down to just 10 words: stay silent or be silenced. The logic of the dark forest is not because some civilizations are born xenophobic or malicious, but because it is calculated from start to finish, a result derived from mathematics and game theory. To understand why an advanced civilization would choose to destroy a newly appeared neighbor, rather than patiently say hello, we must temporarily set aside humanity's little bit of optimism and instead face the cold reasoning on an interstellar level. The universe first imposes a hard command on interactions between civilizations. That is the immense distance between stars and the hard limit of light speed together. Create an unavoidable communication delay. If you send out a message today saying we are friendly, the other party might not receive it for hundreds of years, and you won't hear their response for hundreds of years either. On Earth, this delay at most just makes the conversation a bit choppy, but once placed on an interstellar scale, coupled with the enormous biological and cultural differences between species, it directly evolves into an almost unbreakable chain of suspicion. We can first set up a simple model. Suppose there are two civilizations in the universe, one called Civilization A, one called Civilization B. They are separated by a distance of hundreds of light years. One day Civilization A first discovers the existence of B. At this moment it is forced to stand before a fork in the road. It must choose one path to follow. In theory, A could be completely benevolent. It might sincerely want to exchange knowledge, share technology, create something like a United Nations among civilizations. But the problem is, A has no way to confirm whether B is equally benevolent. What if B is malicious? Then A's act of exposing its location now is equivalent to personally sticking its head in front of the other's gun barrel. And what truly makes the situation hopeless is the second and third layers of uncertainty. Even if A finally convinces itself to believe that B might be benevolent, it still has to continue asking. Then might B think that A is malicious? Might B feel that if it doesn't strike first, it risks being destroyed? Once B also thinks this way, it has every reason for self-preservation, to wipe A off the map with a wave of attack first. Then A has to continue thinking further. I don't know how B thinks of me. I also don't know if B worries I will strike first. The entire chain will keep tightening downward. I don't know if you are benevolent. I don't know if you will suspect me. I don't know if you will worry I will strike first. I even more don't know if for the sake of insurance you might simply take me out first. In the face of the hard limit of light speed, civilizations cannot have quick dialogues. They cannot use back and forth confirmation to build trust. The entire chain of suspicion has no chance to break. And once the stakes are raised to the level of the survival of an entire species, this bit of uncertainty becomes a deadly poison. Under this setting, there is only one method to 100% guarantee you won't be ambushed by the other side, and that is to clean it up before it gains the ability to launch an attack. Looking back at the history of life on Earth, you'll discover a cruel pattern. Trust is a luxury. It only has the possibility to appear under two preconditions. First, both sides share a common biological foundation. Behaviors and motives are roughly understandable to each other. Second, communication is fast enough. The information gap is not so large that right after you say hello, the other side has already taken action. But on an interstellar scale, neither of these preconditions holds true. There's another thing that leaves almost no room for maneuver in the dark forest logic, and that is technological explosion. Many people will instinctively argue, if Civilization B is still at a relatively primitive stage, for example just entered the industrial age only capable of radio, not even interstellar flight, then what kind of threat could it possibly be to a Type 2 civilization that can casually manipulate stellar output? Why not observe it for a while longer, or simply give it a hand? But technological progress is not linear. In civilizational history it is often cliff-like. Standing on the cosmic timeline, the distance from primitive beings with clubs to a civilization capable of building starships might be just a very steep short curve. A civilization that now appears to be in a cold weapons stage could within just a few thousand years skyrocket into a player threatening the entire galaxy. And this amount of time in the rings of the galaxy is hardly even a single scratch. So from a strict logical standpoint, in an interstellar environment, there fundamentally does not exist a truly harmless civilization. There are only two types of civilizations, those that are already dangerous now, and those that given enough time, will one day become dangerous. For those super civilizations that have lived in the shadows for a long time and seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations, a nascent world like Earth is like a newborn tiger cub. Right now it indeed looks soft, cute and harmless, but its genes already contain the outcome of growing sharp claws in the future. If your only goal is to ensure you live longer in the forest, would you wait for it to grow into an adult beast and then bet on whether it will one day pounce on you? Or would you choose to act before it has grown up? This whole set of cognition will completely rewrite how we understand the Fermi paradox. Silence is no longer a passive result, but an active disguise, a survival skill summarized by generation after generation of civilizations from mountains of corpses and seas of blood. Civilizations that can survive the early high-risk stages likely all have one common point. They have all learned to reduce their own detectability. They will deliberately lower their thermal radiation, deal with excess energy, not leave obvious industrial exhaust in the infrared band. They will encode communications to look like signals similar to cosmic background noise. Even when constructing megastructures, they try not to let their home star's brightness show the kind of abnormal change that can be seen from far away at a glance. These civilizations ultimately become the most dangerous kind of hunters in the forest, possessing powerful firepower, yet knowing how to disappear into the background. Similarly, what is truly terrifying is not just who will fire first, but also who is more likely to fire. The mechanism of destruction itself naturally favors the attacking side. In warfare on Earth, defense and offense can roughly pull against each other. Shields and spears can upgrade each other. But once placed on an interstellar battlefield, the situation changes. Attack suddenly possesses an overwhelming advantage. You can imagine a very simple weapon form. Accelerate an object to near light speed. Even if its volume is no larger than a shipping container, the kinetic energy it carries is enough to reenact an asteroid impact on a target planet. Such a weapon is almost impossible to detect early enough. By the time you realize its existence, it's basically too late to do anything. What's more important, compared to maintaining a massive fleet building Dyson spheres and such large projects, launching a few of these relativistic bullets has much lower cost and much higher concealment. It is a cheap, terrifyingly effective coordinate cleaning tool. When a civilization detects a new signal from afar, it doesn't need to first figure out who the other party is, nor does it need to organize a fleet to travel a long distance over there. It just needs to calculate the trajectory, and then lob a small piece of high-speed matter at those coordinates. That's enough. Everything else is left to the laws of physics to solve. This naturally existing asymmetry makes the threshold for launching an attack very low. For one civilization to destroy another civilization, it doesn't need to hate it, nor have any personal feelings toward it. It just needs to do the math. Is wiping the other from the universe more cost-effective than risking its potential future strength? In such a calculation, another civilization becomes a weed that needs to be pulled. Everything is as cold as a gardener cleaning a garden. Placing these reasonings back into today's reality, we can get a spine-chilling interpretation. For the past 100 years, humans thought we were calling out to the universe like a lonely child looking for friends everywhere. But if the dark forest framework is true, what we've been doing is more like being on a battlefield without a bulletproof vest, waving a glow stick around, while broadcasting our precise coordinates to snipers lurking in the dark. Every radio broadcast, every radar pulse, every piece of information sent out toward the stars is tearing open our last bit of natural stealth capability. We are actually betting the survival of the entire human species on an extremely optimistic assumption that the first civilization to hear our voice will actively defy the dark forest survival logic and choose to treat us gently. But once you hand this matter over to probability theory, the conclusion becomes completely opposite. Because in the dark forest, the first to notice your movement is often not a curious neighbor, but the sharpest hunter. If the dark forest hypothesis is correct, then humanity at this moment stands before the most critical crossroads in its own history. We are slowly becoming aware that the universe might default to a rule of shoot first, ask questions later, while simultaneously having to immediately re-examine our entire interstellar strategy. For decades, a group in the scientific community has consistently advocated for active SETI. They don't just passively listen, but explicitly pick out certain star systems and transmit high-power signals toward them, hoping to attract the other's attention. But under the new paradigm, such behavior is no longer just slightly more radical scientific exploration, but more like, from a survival perspective, a kind of crime. In the dark forest worldview, humanity's new survival posture has only one name: strategic silence. We must admit, in a galaxy that may be full of hunters, whether a species can survive depends on how well it hides, not on how loudly it shouts. This shift is not just an adjustment of the technical route, it is a generational change in societal narrative. We are moving from the era of cosmic optimism symbolized by the Voyager Golden Record and the Arecibo message, slowly stepping into an era of cosmic caution. This does not mean we will no longer look up at the stars. On the contrary, we must instead listen more carefully than before, just shifting from active roaring to passive listening. From turning on lights everywhere to sitting in a corner with eyes wide open after turning off the lights. Passively and continuously monitoring for accidental signal leaks from other civilizations might become our most important line of defense in the future. We are more like an owl in a tree, not making a sound itself, just slowly turning its head to catch the crisp snap of a breaking branch, the subtle rustle of rubbing leaves. Those are all traces that might expose a careless neighbor. Once we truly detect a suspicious signal, our first reaction should not be to enthusiastically reply hello, but must be to coolly conduct a threat analysis, and then hide ourselves deeper if necessary. On the technical level, this path points out new priorities for us. We must learn to control information leakage, quickly reduce the kind of omnidirectional radio broadcasts that scatter haphazardly into all of space, push more communication back into fiber optics and highly directional laser links, keep the vast majority of data firmly locked around Earth. Further ahead, we must also seriously consider cosmic camouflage technology. Those goals that previously looked cool, like building an entire Dyson sphere to harness a star's energy, might actually be very bad ideas, because such engineering would drastically change the spectral characteristics of a star. In the eyes of any decent infrared telescope, it would be like shouting, "We're here." On the contrary, a more reliable direction might be a giant computational structure similar to a matryoshka brain. It through complex heat dissipation and directional exhaust camouflages its waste heat as background radiation, looking just like a patch of ordinary cosmic noise. Externally, it just has a bit more heat with no discernible pattern, not a conspicuous sign of civilization. From a macro-emotional perspective, all this signifies the formal end of a certain innocence. We have to accept a cruel reality. Perhaps we will never be able to have face-to-face chats with those older civilizations. Perhaps the open and friendly Galactic Federation like in Star Trek was a fatal fairy tale from the very beginning. This of course is disappointing, because humans have always been good at finding romantic meaning in the universe. But at the same time, this silence also hides another more mature kind of power. When we are willing to adjust our behavior according to the Dark Forest rules, we are no longer just a target waiting to be hunted, and begin to move closer to true survivors. We acknowledge the silence of the universe is not an error that needs correcting, but a survival strategy worth imitating. From this perspective, we are not alone. The universe might really be crowded. It's just that most inhabitants have learned a common skill: speaking through silence. Curbing our voices is not withdrawing from the universe, but finally learning to participate according to the rules of this game. When we look up at the night sky again in the future, the meaning of those stars in our eyes will also become different. It is no longer an empty stage, waiting for our songs to fill it, but more like a huge and crowded room, where every being inside is carefully holding its breath. No one dares to break the quiet first. Darkness does not represent emptiness, but more like a state of highly concentrated alertness. In this long, almost dialogueless standoff, we finally understand one thing. The quietest moment in the universe perhaps is not because no one is speaking, but because all civilizations that truly want to survive are carrying out their own survival actions through silence. So what do you think? Is humanity currently gazing at the stars, or digging its own grave?